A Whole New Mind, Why Right-Brainers Will Rule the Future by Daniel H. Pink. Picture this. A man named John Henry, born with a hammer in his hand, becomes the ultimate symbol of human strength in 19th century America. When a salesman shows up at his railroad camp with a fancy new steam-powered drill, claiming it can outwork any human, John Henry isn't having it. Man versus machine. The challenge is on. With incredible determination, he swings his hammer, blasting through that mountainside faster than the mechanical drill. He wins. But there's a heartbreaking twist. The effort literally breaks his heart, and he collapses, becoming a tragic hero of an era when machines started replacing human muscle. Now, let's jump ahead about 100 years to 1997. Our hero this time isn't defined by physical strength, but by pure brain power. Garry Kasparov, arguably the greatest chess player who ever lived, faces off against a massive IBM supercomputer called Deep Blue. This is basically the brain's last stand. And in a match that stunned everyone watching, the machine actually won. The most brilliant, analytical, strategic mind on Earth was defeated by raw computational power. These two stories, separated by a century, reveal something profound about our changing world. First, machines became stronger than us. Then they became better at logic and calculation than us. So here's the million-dollar question, especially if you're thinking about your future. What's left? If machines can outlift us and computers can outthink us in certain ways, what makes us uniquely valuable? What will set you apart in the coming decades? That's exactly what Daniel Pink explores in his remarkable book, A Whole New Mind. Pink, who used to write speeches for a vice president, has this incredible talent for spotting cultural shifts before most people notice them, and what he discovered is pretty eye-opening. The skills that made previous generations successful, they're not enough anymore. The game has completely changed. Today I'm going to walk you through his big discovery. We're traveling from the age of logic and information into what Pink calls the Conceptual Age. By the time we're done, you'll understand 3 massive forces reshaping your future, and you'll learn about 6 essential human abilities that you'll need not just to get by, but to actually thrive and find real meaning in your life. This isn't just career advice. It's about a whole new way of thinking and being. For decades, the success formula seemed pretty straightforward. Our world belonged to a specific type of person with a specific type of mind. The knowledge worker. You know the type. Good grades. High test scores. Solid college. If you were great with numbers and logic, you became an engineer, programmer, or accountant. Good with words and arguments? Lawyer. These were the peak professions of the information age, all requiring what we call left brain thinking. Now, our brain is obviously one organ, but it has 2 hemispheres that work differently, and this gives us a really useful way to understand what's happening in our world. The left hemisphere is your logical, step-by-step, analytical side. It crushes numbers, follows instructions, processes language literally. It's what helps you solve math problems or write code. For the longest time, everyone assumed this was the important half, the smart half, the part that mattered. Our entire education system, with all its standardized tests and single correct answers, was designed to strengthen exactly this kind of thinking. The right hemisphere? That's been the underdog. It's intuitive, pattern-seeking, big-picture-oriented. Instead of processing sequences, it recognizes patterns. It doesn't just read text, it understands context. This is the part that helps you recognize faces, pick up on emotional cues, get jokes, appreciate art, or feel empathy for a friend. For years, these abilities were considered nice extras, soft skills, but definitely secondary to real logical thinking. The dessert, not the main course. But Pink argues that something fundamental is shifting. The keys to success are being handed to a different kind of person with a different kind of mind. Someone who combines left brain logic with right brain creativity and empathy. We're moving from the information age into what he calls the conceptual age, where the creators, empathizers, pattern spotters, and meaning makers will be the ones who really succeed. So why now? Pink identifies three unstoppable forces changing everything: abundance, Asia, and automation. Let's start with abundance. Think about your grandparents' world. Throughout most of history, life was about scarcity. People needed functional stuff: a reliable car, a working telephone, a solid roof. Function was everything. But for millions of people in developed countries, that's completely changed. We've gone from scarcity to overwhelming abundance. Pink shares this great story about shopping at Target. He wasn't just buying a toilet brush. He was buying a toilet brush designed by Michael Graves, one of the world's most famous architects, for less than $6. Designer clothing by Isaac Mizrahi for less than generic brands cost decades ago. This is huge. When everyone's basic needs are met and we're drowning in affordable, functional products, logic and utility aren't enough to make something stand out anymore. A product can't just work well. It needs to be beautiful, unique, meaningful. Think about your phone. You don't just want it to make calls. You want it to feel good in your hand, look elegant, say something about who you are. This aesthetic imperative means design isn't a luxury anymore. It's essential for any business trying to connect with people. Abundance has made right-brain sensibilities like beauty, emotion, and meaning incredibly valuable. But abundance has this ironic side effect. While we're materially better off than ever, our happiness levels haven't really budged. We're wealthier but not necessarily more fulfilled, so people start searching for something deeper: purpose, transcendence, meaning. The hunger for meaning is actually a natural result of drowning in material goods. The second force is Asia. Just like manufacturing jobs moved overseas in the 20th century, tons of routine knowledge work is now flowing to countries like India and China. Pink introduces us to bright young software developers in Mumbai. They have solid engineering degrees and write code for North American banks and airlines. Same work a programmer in North America does, but for maybe $15,000 a year. And it's not just programming. Financial analysis, accounting, reading X-rays, legal research. Any work that can be broken down into rules and routines can be done by smart, educated people thousands of miles away for way less money. Pink's point isn't to scare you, but to help you understand reality. If your job is mostly routine, logical, left-brain tasks, you're competing with millions of smart, ambitious people worldwide. To really thrive, you need to offer something they can't: relationship building, tackling novel challenges, synthesizing the big picture. The third force, probably the most powerful, is automation. This brings us back to Kasparov. Chess is the ultimate left-brain activity: logic, memory, calculation. Kasparov could analyze about 3 moves per second. Deep Jr., the computer he played, 3 million moves per second. What happened to Kasparov is basically a modern parable. Last century, machines replaced our backs. This century, software is replacing our left brains. Any job that depends on routine, that can be reduced to rules or a script, is vulnerable. If an Indian accountant doesn't replace you, maybe TurboTax will. Software can do preliminary medical diagnoses following decision trees. People can find legal forms online for a few bucks instead of paying lawyers hundreds of dollars to draft them. But here's the thing. Automation is destroying routine left-brain work while creating demand for skills computers can't replicate. A computer can follow rules but can't invent something new. It can calculate but can't feel empathy. It can analyze details but can't synthesize the big picture. So when you combine these three forces, abundance meeting our material needs, Asia handling routine white-collar work, and automation replacing logical functions, the conclusion is clear. Left-brain thinking is still necessary, but it's no longer sufficient. The future demands something more. Pink calls it high concept and high touch. High concept is creating artistic and emotional beauty, detecting patterns and opportunities, crafting satisfying stories, and combining unrelated ideas into something new. It's the creator, the inventor, the big-picture thinker. High touch is empathizing with others, understanding human interaction subtleties, finding and sharing joy, and stretching beyond the everyday to pursue purpose and meaning. It's the caregiver, the counselor, the storyteller. These are right hemisphere abilities. And to navigate this new world, Pink says we need to master 6 essential aptitudes, what he calls the 6 senses: design, story, symphony, empathy, play, and meaning. These aren't rare gifts for a chosen few. They're fundamentally human abilities we all have. The challenge is waking them up. Let's explore the first sense: design. Remember that Michael Graves toilet brush? We live in a world where good design isn't just for museums anymore. It's everywhere. Creating something merely functional isn't enough. It needs to be beautiful, whimsical, or emotionally engaging. Pink tells this powerful story about the 2000 presidential election. The outcome came down to just a few hundred votes in Florida, and the controversy centered on a confusing ballot in Palm Beach County, the infamous butterfly ballot. The design was so terrible that thousands of people accidentally voted for the wrong candidate. Extensive investigation concluded that it wasn't fraud or legal battles that decided the presidency. It was bad design. That single ballot shows that design isn't just decoration. It has real consequences. It can literally change history. In the conceptual age, whether you're creating a product, service, or school curriculum, the ability to design something useful, beautiful, and human-centered is a massive advantage. The second sense is story. We're drowning in information and data. In the information age, whoever had the most facts usually won the argument. But today, facts are everywhere. Anyone with a smartphone has access to them. What's valuable now is putting those facts into context and delivering them with emotional impact. In other words, telling a story. We're wired for story. It's how we remember. Pink makes this beautiful distinction. The queen died and the king died is a fact. The queen died and the king died of a broken heart is a story. That second version has power. It gives us context, emotion, meaning. Businesses are catching on. They're not just selling products anymore. They're selling narratives. A bottle of wine isn't just fermented grape juice. It's the story of 2 brothers honoring their late mother, with profits going to charity. That story is what makes it stand out on a crowded shelf. Even medicine is being transformed. This new thing called narrative medicine teaches doctors that diagnosis isn't just about lab results. It's about the patient's story. Listening with empathy can reveal things a symptom checklist never could. The third sense is symphony. The past rewarded specialization. Focus on one thing. Become an expert in a narrow field. But as that specialized, analytical work gets automated or outsourced, there's new value in the opposite skill, putting pieces together. Symphony is seeing the big picture, crossing boundaries, combining different elements into something new and compelling. It's about synthesis, not just analysis. Pink shares this wonderful personal story. He was terrible at drawing. His first self-portrait was pretty awful. He wasn't drawing what he actually saw. He was drawing childhood symbols, 2 circles for eyes, a line for a mouth. His left brain was just naming parts. Then he took a class based on drawing on the right side of the brain. The core lesson? Drawing isn't about identifying parts. It's about seeing relationships. The relationship between light and shadow, positive space and negative space, angles and curves. By learning to quiet his analytical left brain and let his right brain see the whole picture, see the relationships between parts, his drawing was completely transformed. That's symphony. It's the inventor combining 2 existing ideas to create something new, like putting peanut butter and chocolate together to make Reese's. It's the leader connecting people from different fields and orchestrating their talents to create something no single specialist could. Symphony is about seeing the relationships between relationships. The fourth sense is empathy. Empathy is standing in someone else's shoes, seeing through their eyes, feeling with their heart. It's not sympathy, which is feeling for someone. It's feeling with them. It's an amazing act of imagination. And in our high-tech, globally connected world, it's one of the most vital skills. You can outsource analysis, but you can't outsource a relationship. A computer can process data, but it can't sense what a client is really worried about. Pink mentions psychologist Paul Ekman's work, proving that facial expressions for core emotions, happiness, sadness, anger, fear, are universal across cultures. Reading these nonverbal cues is a right hemisphere specialty. This is why doctors who score high on empathy tests often get better patient outcomes. Their ability to connect, listen, and understand emotional states is genuinely healing. Great leaders are almost always great empathizers. They connect with their teams on a human level, inspiring loyalty and trust in ways pure logic never could. Pink even shares a practical tip from Ekman: how to spot a fake smile. A genuine smile, called a Duchenne smile, involves not just mouth muscles but also eye muscles, causing those little crinkles at the corners. We can fake the mouth part, but we can't fake the eyes. The eyes really are the window to true emotion. The fifth sense is play. For ages, work and play were seen as opposites. The factory floor was grimly serious. Laughter could get you fired in some places. But the conceptual age is reminding us of a deep truth. The opposite of play isn't work, it's depression. Play, through games, humor, and joyfulness, is becoming crucial to work and life. First, games. Video games aren't just for teenage boys anymore. They're a massive industry, bigger than movies, and these games teach powerful skills. They require solving complex problems, recognizing patterns, thinking strategically, even developing empathy through role-playing. One study found that surgeons who played video games made 37% fewer mistakes in surgery. The U.S. Army even created its own popular video game for recruiting and training. Then there's humor. Neuroscience shows that getting a joke is sophisticated cognitive work that relies heavily on the right hemisphere's ability to resolve incongruity. In the workplace, a good sense of humor signals high emotional intelligence and effective leadership. It relieves tension, builds rapport, helps communicate difficult messages. And finally, joyfulness. Pink takes us to a laughter club in India, started by a physician named Madan Kataria. Groups gather in a park every morning just to laugh together. At first it's forced, but laughter is contagious. Soon everyone's overcome with genuine joy. The science backs this up. Laughter reduces stress hormones, boosts immunity, has cardiovascular benefits. As Dr. Kataria says, people who laugh together can work together. The sixth and final sense is meaning. This might be the most profound of all. Pink starts with Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived Auschwitz. In Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl argued that our primary human drive isn't pursuing pleasure, but pursuing meaning. He found that even in unimaginable suffering, survivors were often those who held on to a sense of purpose. If people could find meaning in a concentration camp, surely we can find it in our abundant lives. The forces of abundance have freed millions from daily survival struggles. But that freedom has created a new kind of hunger, a spiritual hunger. We have the means to live, but we need something to live for. This search for meaning is everywhere. In the rise of spirituality, not necessarily organized religion, but broader concerns about purpose and connection to something larger. It's in the positive psychology movement, studying not what makes us sick, but what makes us happy and fulfilled. It's changing how we see our lives. Pink ends with a beautiful metaphor. The information age was like a maze. A maze is a confusing puzzle with dead ends, and the goal is finding the one right path to the cheese and getting out fast. The conceptual age is different. It's more like a labyrinth. A labyrinth has only one path. It spirals into the center and back out. No tricks. No dead ends. The goal isn't escaping but walking the path, experiencing the journey. A maze is an analytical puzzle for the left brain. A labyrinth is a journey of discovery for the right brain. In this new era, our lives are less about frantically searching for cheese and more about the journey itself. Pursuing a life rich in design, story, symphony, empathy, play, and ultimately meaning. The pursuit of a whole new mind. As we wrap up our journey through a whole new mind, I want to reflect on why this book matters so much, especially if you're young and thinking about your future. What Pink has given us isn't just economic prediction. It's a guide to living a more complete, fulfilling human life. For generations, we were taught to compartmentalize ourselves. There was the logical, serious work version of you, and the creative, emotional, personal version. The message was clear: bring the first to work and school, leave the second at home. Pink's revolutionary idea is that this separation isn't just unfulfilling anymore. It's obsolete. The very qualities we were taught to suppress, creativity, empathy, playfulness, searching for meaning, are now what will determine our success and happiness. This is fantastic news. You don't have to choose between being practical and being creative. You don't have to decide if you're a numbers person or an arts person. The conceptual age demands that you be both. It asks you to become a whole person, integrating both sides of your brain and bringing your full self to everything you do. The most powerful lesson in this book? These 6 senses aren't rare talents for geniuses. They're our human birthright. We're all natural-born designers, storytellers, and empathizers. Think about when you were little. You spent your days drawing, making up stories, playing pretend, connecting with others. You hadn't been taught yet that these things were less important than memorizing multiplication tables. Pink's work is a call to reclaim those abilities, to nurture them back to strength after they might have weakened from neglect. So how can you start practicing these ideas today? You don't need some huge, life-altering change. Start with small shifts in awareness. First, keep a small notebook just for yourself. Use it to practice design. When you see a product, website, or room that feels particularly well designed and makes you feel good, sketch it or write down why. Do the same for poorly designed things. This simple practice will train your eye and make you more sensitive to the world around you. Second, pay attention to story. Next time you explain an idea for a school project or to friends, don't just list facts. Wrap them in a short narrative. What's the human element? What's the emotional core? You'll find people don't just understand better, they connect with it. Finally, practice empathy. Next time you're in a conversation, focus completely on the other person. Listen not just to their words, but to their tone and facial expressions. Try to genuinely imagine what they might be feeling. It's the most powerful and rewarding skill you can develop. We've explored the grand vision of a whole new mind today, touching on its most powerful stories and ideas. But honestly, our conversation is just the beginning of a much larger journey. The real magic happens when you read the book yourself. It's in those quiet moments when one of Pink's examples or a simple phrase sparks an idea you didn't know you had. This summary is designed to be a map, showing you if this journey is worth taking. If anything we've talked about today resonates with you, I really encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning concepts. It's an experience that can genuinely change how you see yourself, your future, and the world. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this valuable, please click that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know we're on the right path together, and it ensures you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. Let's continue to learn and grow together.